Some writers entertain us, some inspire us, but very few force us to confront the darkest truths about ourselves. And what kind of writer tells the truth so honestly that society puts him on trial for it? I'm your host Sonia, and in today's episode, we are opening the page to one of the boldest and most unforgettable writers of South Asia, Saadat Hasan Manto. Manto was born in 1912 in British India and spent much of his early life in Amritsar before moving to Bombay, where he worked in the film industry as a screenwriter. But history changed his life forever. In 1947, the partition of India divided millions of people, forcing migration, violence, and unimaginable trauma. Manto eventually moved to Lahore, Pakistan, carrying with him the emotional scars of partition, scars that became central to his writing. What makes Manto extraordinary is that he refused to hide the ugliness of society. He wrote about violence, sexuality, hypocrisy, poverty, and cruelty with brutal honesty. At a time when many writers preferred idealism or nationalism, Manto chose realism. He believed that if society itself was disturbing, literature should not pretend otherwise. Because of his honesty, he faced several obscenity trials both in British India and Pakistan, but Manto defended himself fearlessly. He once famously argued that if people found his stories obscene, then the society producing such realities was the true obscenity. What is remarkable is that Manto rarely wrote about heroes in the traditional sense. His stories focus on ordinary people, refugees, prostitutes, laborers, mentally disturbed individuals, and victims of violence. Through them, he revealed the deep contradictions of society and questioned ideas of morality and respectability. One of his most famous stories is Toba Tek Singh. The story takes place in a mental asylum after partition, where inmates are being exchanged between India and Pakistan. The main character, Bishan Singh, cannot understand where his homeland belongs. Is it India, Pakistan, or nowhere at all? In the end, he dies in the strip of land between two countries, the no man's land. It is one of the most powerful symbols of displacement and identity in modern literature. Another unforgettable story is Khol Do. It follows a father searching desperately for his missing daughter during partition violence. When she is finally found, the ending shocks the reader into silence. Manto exposes not just physical brutality but also the psychological destruction caused by communal hatred. The story remains one of the most haunting depictions of violence against women in South Asian literature. Then there is Thanda Gosht, a deeply disturbing exploration of guilt and moral collapse during riots. The story examines how violence can destroy human conscience itself. It was considered scandalous at the time because Manto refused to soften the horror of what people were capable of doing. In contrast, Moselle presents a bold and unconventional non-Muslim female character, independent, fearless, and unconcerned with religious labels. At a time of rising communal tensions, Moselle risks her own life to save another woman. Through her, Manto reminds us that humanity is greater than religion, border, or social categories. And finally, there is Boo, a subtle but powerful story about desire, class difference, and artificial social values. Manto contrasts the natural scent of a poor village woman with the artificial perfume of urban upper-class life, quietly critiquing class pretensions and emotional emptiness. What makes Manto timeless is not just his realism but his humanism. Even when he writes about morally flawed characters, he does so with empathy. He refuses to judge them completely because he understands that human beings are shaped by pain, violence, loneliness, and circumstance. Stylistically, Manto's writing is simple, sharp, and direct. He does not waste words. There are no long decorative descriptions, yet within a few pages he creates emotional shock and psychological depth that many novels struggle to achieve. Sadly, Manto's later years were marked by financial hardship, alcoholism, and declining health. He died in Lahore in 1955 at just 42 years old. But despite his short life, he left behind an immense literary legacy that continues to challenge readers even today. And perhaps that is why Manto still matters. In a world filled with political divisions, violence, censorship, and social hypocrisy, his stories continue to ask difficult questions. What happens when humanity disappears? What is the cost of hatred? And can literature force us to confront truths we would rather ignore? Thank you for joining me on The Open Page. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep turning the page.